here. Call for apologies. I've got an apology for lateness from Raf and from Jamie. Oh, Jamie's here. Gosh, that was quick. No, you weren't late at all. And is Councillor Jones is an apology today, is she?
No, she's here.
No? She's here?
She's floating around.
And Jimmy's here. Right, okay, so just lateness for Raf Manji. I'll move that. Do I have a seconder? Andrew Turner. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Declarations of interest. I haven't received any. We were asking a question as to whether the CCHL one, but look, I'll just chair the meeting anyway for as long as I can. Actually, put me down as an early departure. Thank you. I've got a... We need to declare interest in the CCHL. Yeah, but that's what we were asking, yeah. So I'm assuming that we do that. Do the CCHL directors sit to one side on the statements of intent? Not many. They do? Don't? Don't?
To be wise too.
Do we have any advice?
I don't think they normally sit aside on the statements of intent. It's normally a council.
Council discussion? Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't have to go straight away. It's just, I'll explain why I'm leaving. I have a war in France commemoration. It's the Battle of the Somme anniversary today, so I'll be attending that, so I'll be an early departure. The confirmation of previous minutes sitting in front of us. It's just the minutes of the meeting held on Thursday the 8th of September.
I don't think they're included in the agenda. They'll be in the next agenda. There just wasn't time to include them. That's just a... Can you take that out? It's just the standard wording that pops into the minutes from the list.
So all I did was do what was on the screen?
Yes.
And it is incorrect because we're not doing the minutes today because you haven't read them, because they're not there, and we'll deal with them next week. Right. There's no public forum presentations and no deputations by appointment and no presentation of petitions. So the resolution is to include supplementary reports. I'll move the supplementary reports be included in the paper, seconded by Andrew. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. The next item of the agenda is the minutes of the Christchurch Civic Awards Subcommittee meeting. Someone like to move that they be received. Jana Johansson, seconded by Tim Scandrett. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Statements of intent, Christchurch City Holdings Limited, and I know that Ellie Jones has an issue that she wants to raise in relation to the Littleton Port Company statement of intent. I don't know whether does CCHL coming to the table for this one, or it's just that I know that the cruise ship terminal, the cruise ship, the commitment to operating a cruise ship terminal or having a cruise ship terminal is in the Littleton recovery plan, but it's not specifically stated in the statement of intent. So it refers to the sorry, I'm bring my glasses down. It refers to the Littleton recovery plan, and then lists all the things it's going to be doing and leaves out the cruise terminal. I mean, there is going to be a cruise terminal, and we all know that it's going to happen, but it's subject to some business case analysis at the moment. But I think it would be useful to signal it in the statement of intent because it's in the Littleton recovery plan. So there's no kind of opting out of it. It's in there, but we were wondering if we could have it specifically stated in the statement of intent.
There were two areas, particularly in the SOI, where it is very clearly omitted, and one of them is the role in the growth of the regional economy and, infrastructure for the next 30 years. So I don't have the page numbers in front of me. I was reading it on my phone and screenshotted it, so it's not that clear. But those were the two areas particularly. For example, in the CDC SOI, there is clear reference to the TEED and the development of the TEED, which hasn't happened yet but is happening, and I feel that that is a parallel with the cruise berth and the SOI for LPC.
At this point, I mean, at the time when we did this, and it was approved by the end of the 30th of June, as I said, we were going through a process with them, the business case was going through, so Are you actually wanting it done in this statement of intent, or are we going to put it in the letter of expectations for
No, I
next time?
think it needs to be part of this SOI. It is, as the Mayor has said, there is no doubt there will be some sort of cruise berth or terminal or whatever at Littleton, and it needs to be signalled in there somewhere, either as an aspirational thing or something that is still to be investigated further.
This does leave it an interesting position because these are final SOIs that have
Yeah,
already been
I thought
accepted,
that was
and
the
it's very,
plan.
it's very difficult to change them without actually basically.
Well, I'm amazed that it's got to this point without this having been raised, and my apologies for not raising it sooner.
Yeah, no,
I have
it has
away.
been, it's been through strategy and finance, it's
Right.
been through council, and twice actually, so this is the final that's come through, but, it is, I mean, maybe, can we just take comfort from the fact that it is in the Littleton recovery, the Littleton Port recovery plan?
If there is nothing we can do about it, there is
Yeah.
nothing we can do about it. However, it is a glaring omission, and anyone who looks at an SOI...
Has been through council
Yeah, I
when we had
understand
the
that.
chance to make the
Okay,
change.
well,
Yeah.
I'm one person. We
Yeah.
have a whole lot.
Yeah. Andrew?
Yeah, maybe just to add, certainly some commentary was made at Strategy and Finance and on the draft around the relationship between the SOI and the Littleton Port Recovery Plan. Commentary was made around the cruise berth, commitment to the Antarctic programme and relationships with the community, and I know all of those were picked up in a response that came back to us when we were discussing the draft, and obviously we've got to this final SOI now. I don't know whether an appropriate thing to do might be to note these things
Yeah.
in response to the next letter of expectation that would result in the next draft SOI. I think that's probably the best process to pick that up, given that we can't make changes today.
Yeah.
And given we're going through going to start that process again in a month's time, I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
you know,
So-
the first
so-
draft will come in February.
So note that the, so a new one, note that the LPC statement of, letter of expectations will give clear direction that the council expects
Expectation.
a cruise terminal to be developed, and that cruise ships be accommodated in the meantime. Because that allows for, I mean, that is going to be in our statement of expectations, is that, well, yeah, the next one starts a process in a month, but I think we should note it, because I think that we should do more than give a clear direction that we expect the cruise terminal be developed, but that we expect them to accommodate cruise ships in the meantime, and I'd like to put cruise ships and icebreakers as part of Antarctic programs, Antarctic program icebreakers as well.
We also could, not myself, but the little ship is a tender program that uses warships that aren't.
Oh, sorry. And that Antarctic program icebreakers, vessels be accommodated as well.
And could we change it from terminal? I think that's a
Oh,
little careful with that. I would
sorry, cruise ship berth. Cruise ship berth. Antarctic Antarctic program vessels. Capital A. No. Capital A. N T A R.
See.
TARC, CCC, no, go C, TARC, CTICA, yep, and that Antarctic program vessels. Also be accommodated.
Is that what you meant to say there? Accommodation?
Yeah,
In the meantime?
Yeah.
Where?
well, they've got other wharves. Yeah,
At LPC?
at the port, yeah, but, yeah.
And cruise berth rather than cruise terminal
berth
would be
instead
good.
of terminal, and that's BERTH.
And probably, and I don't know whether we need to take advice on this, letter of expectation rather than statement of expectation, because it's the letter of expectation going to the port, isn't it?
So that note that the LPC letter of expectation, note that the letter of expectation for LPC, so yeah, take out, yeah, and move that, go for LPC will give clear direction. The council expects that a cruise berth be developed and that cruise ships be accommodated in the meantime, and that the Antarctic program vessels also be accommodated. Yanni.
Thank you. I just wanted to check on the process. Previously, when we wanted to raise issues to be in the statement of intent or of the company, we were told we must do that in GX. So you recall the previous discussion we had around the draft SOIs and raising issues of concern was done in public excluded. I'm a little bit concerned today that we're now having the ability to raise things in a public session relevant to what the companies are
So you'd
doing.
like me to rule myself out of order?
Well, can we just get some advice on that?
No, no, I don't want advice on that.
All I'm happy to raise other issues as well, but I just want to get advice on whether this is the appropriate.
I'm sorry, Yanni, but I forgot that I wasn't I got a message from Ali that she wanted to raise this particular issue. I hadn't taken on board the fact that these were the final. They are the final, and actually it was going to be raised in this point anyway. The letter of expectation, there is absolutely no reason why we can't just notify that here. But look, we're going to have a conversation about this. It's not going to come up before there is a new council. So I'm quite happy for this to sit as part of the resolution.
So just so I'm clear on the process, you're happy for us to move other letters of expectations?
No.
Why not?
Because Ali raised this beforehand, and Ali's already made a decision that she's not going to be joining us after the election.
What is that?
And I accepted that resolution as part of the next letter of expectation. So I made a mistake, Yanni. I do from time to time, and this is one that I made. I had overlooked that this was the final stage. So I'm just being, kind to a person who's decided to go to the community board level and provide her valuable service to her city from there. Right. Andrew, did you have another?
No, except to say that I think the intent of what we're doing here is commendable, and I see no problem with the fact that we've got that there. I mean, I support the content of what we're doing, and that's the important thing. The things that we need to get sorted, and this is the process for doing it.
And we'll come up with a better process next time. Ali?
One question, because of course in the SOI too there is a mention of return to shareholders and the requirement for LPC to accommodate their cargoes as per their contracts, which I understand. What I'd be slightly concerned about is that we are essentially saying that the cruise ships and Antarctic program vessels should be accommodated full stop. If they are unable to be accommodated, and I don't want to add any sort of grey area here, but they do have contracts with some companies for berthing and cargoes to be. Is there some way we can just
every endeavour be made?
Yeah, something that just
every endeavour be made to ensure
Thank
cruise
you.
ships be accommodated in the meantime, and it also be accommodated and on the same basis. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. All right, now do I have a mover and a seconder for these? Andrew, seconded by Tim. I'll put that. Yanni?
Thank you. It's good to be able to receive these final statements of intent. I just wanted to express disappointment that the council didn't ask for a living wage to be part of these statements of intent as we went through this process, because I think actually asking our companies to consider having a living wage is really important, and it's something that I think will include the people who have made deputations previously to this council around some of the pay rates for the contractors and the cleaners. It's something that's incredibly important. So I was disappointed that as we did the draft statements of intent, we didn't actually ask the companies to consider that. And I think there's still a long way to go in terms of things like pay relativity, CEO increases that need to be addressed. So I'll take advice from the Mayor that you don't want us to raise these issues today, that we can, for the new council, can consider the things that we would like to put in the letters of expectation. But if I'm returned to council, I will signal that I will be asking for a firm commitment to looking at the living wage and addressing the issues of pay relativity around things like chief executive pay around our council companies.
Means one report.
Hmm?
It means one report.
I don't think he means that. Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you. The corporate finance report. Ref, would you like to move that this be received and seconded by Jamie? Put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Strategy and Finance Committee minutes. We're receiving those minutes. Again, Ref, seconded Jamie. Put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Vehicle windscreen washers 12-month report. Has anyone got any questions on the report? No? Very good. Would someone like to move that we receive it? Paul Lonsdale, seconded Ali Jones. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Multicultural strategy update. Jimmy, would you like to move that?
Yes, I'm happy to move.
And I'll let you speak to it as well. Would someone like to second it? Andrew?
I give you a comment.
Please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. As the chair of City Council Multicultural Working Party, I'm delighted that the feedback from the draft multicultural strategy consultation is positive and full support from the majority of the community and the individuals. I myself attended 3 workshops in Form, University of Canterbury, and the Christchurch Multicultural Council. I have a strong feeling that majority of the attendees should let this thought that this strategic document is very crucial for Council take a lead to give people a sense of belonging, as well as give everyone equal opportunity to access the Council's information and the services. My view, the key successful factor, which means the welcome and supported by majority of the community individuals, is due to this high-level strategic document is based on the partnership between the City Council and the wider community, especially the Multicultural Working Party consists of fellow councillors and the community leaders to establish this document. And also this document is the Council in response to the wider the community request for the last 25 years. So I'm also delighted that Mana Whenua has been get involved to review and amend this draft strategic document to make this document as a living document and will be presented to the Te Honga Committee meeting in November of this year. Initial stage, I have a little bit disappointed because why I thought that this term council we will adopt this document. However, Mana Whenua to review and have a proper amendment, that's very, very crucial. Because based on our vision, we respect the Treaty of Waitangi. That's very crucial. So I accept this kind of the situation. So I look forward to this final strategic document to be presented to the Council approve as soon as possible. That's way if we can approve at the end, probably before Christmas, that's best, rather than the next year. And for the further implementation of the action plan for the next 5 years. Finally, I still would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to all the working group members and the staffs, my fellow councillor Andrew, Yanni, Glenn, and myself, eternal members Zion, Patrick, Catherine, Eken, Machura, Josiah, Winky, and Nana, and all the council staff, Claire, Esther, Patria, Katie, Georgie, Gabriel, and Kakahora. So thank you.
Thank you. Andrew. Oh, sorry, and Phil and Glenn.
Thank you. I'd just like to echo the comments that Councillor Chen has made, and I'd also like to, in addition to recognising the contribution that the working group members, including those external members, have made. It's been an excellent process, and Councillor Chen has made an excellent job of chairing that working group and bringing this whole piece of work together. But this really, where it's got to, is around taking a bit of extra time to end up with a strategy which is really excellent and fit for the future and fit for purpose. I think out of taking the extra time to get the further input from the Te Hononga Papatipu Runanga Committee and the advice of Kaharoa and Gabriel, our cultural advisors, we'll end up with something which is going to be so much better as a result, rather than rushing this to get it completed in this council term and not getting that extra input. So my belief is that the extra time taken will result in some real added value to this strategy, which will end up with a strategy which is really fit for purpose, fit for the future, and which will be an excellent reflection of the really good work that's been done to get us to this point.
Thanks, Phil.
Look, I also thank Jimmy and the committee for doing excellent work with the staff. There's one area I just wondered about, and it's one of the themes of racism, and I note that the young people especially, they wanted a stronger commitment from council around that. And I note that you've worked with a number of schools. I'm just wondering, given the incidents with schools and sporting clubs, if in fact we might perhaps have more contact with, say, the sporting clubs and maybe a wider range of schools. And I appreciate the work, though, that you've already done.
Certainly. Thank you. That's noted. Thank you. Yep.
Glenn.
Thank you. Yes, it is good to do this properly, and I hear Jimmy's frustration. Just pick up one of Phil's comments on racism. I thought we've come a long way, but when we see what happens sometimes with rugby teams, we know we still have some way to go. My thoughts on this, and I know there's the proposal to launch the strategy to coincide with culture to law, but I also wonder about tying this in with Waitangi Day commemoration, but also citizenship ceremonies, where there was some way of at least receiving a report close, at the council meeting closest to that day. It could be a way to. It's probably going to be close anyway because it's bound to be late January, early February. So that could be a good way to launch it. Probably more culture galore than Waitangi Day.
We're certainly happy to take your lead on where you and when you'd like it launched. We were hoping that there may be a raft of activities around that time. It's quite a busy time of the year for race relations and other activities, so we're certainly happy to take your steer on how you'd like us to launch it.
Yanni?
Thank you. Thank you for the report. One of the issues that was raised was civic engagement and representation, and just wondered, obviously by the time the strategy is adopted, the elections will be over, but are we doing anything just in terms of awareness of the election with those ethnic communities or those diverse communities around civic engagement and participation at the moment?
Yes, Councillor, we are distributing information and we've contacted groups individually. Some groups have talked to their members by themselves, and we connected some communities with the marketing team to give them the opportunity to participate in some of the campaigns that were organized around election days. Don't think anybody picked it up. The young people picked it up more.
Thanks.
Yes. Paul, sorry.
Just very briefly, I just want to thank Claire for the work she's doing. I mean, I know the work you did on our Safer Christchurch strategy, and here you've got a multicultural strategy. Just the work you've done in terms of getting a lot of this work pulled together this term has been fantastic. I just want to acknowledge that, actually, Claire.
Thank you, Paul. I'd also actually like to acknowledge the work of Esther and the team. It's certainly been, and the Multicultural Working Party, it's certainly been a huge undertaking, and it's been a really unique and wonderful opportunity to work with so many diverse people, particularly having the community help co-create this whole thing. Yep. So thank you.
I realise there are other people there, but I think the leadership you've shown to pull it all together is actually outstanding.
Yeah, well, I'd like to add my congratulations to Councillor Chen. I mean, he's been passionate about this, and I wouldn't see any reflection at all about taking the extra time just to get the mana whenua input so that it is right, and it's going to have your name stamped all over it. So and that's because you've just devoted your attention to making it happen, and you've just never wavered in your commitment to ensuring that this city has a multicultural strategy. So I congratulate you and all of the others. I think that you've also proved that the model that brings external people to the table with councillors actually works really well, and that concept of co-creation is both empowering but also provides for a better strategy as a result for us. So it works both ways. So on that note, I will put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.
Give me a round of applause.
Well done. Right, intersection improvement, Cashmere, Hoonhay, Worsleys. A significant. Shall we establish the Health and Safety Committee of Council first?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go to item 14. There was one point that I wanted to make about the health and safety, that it said meetings shall not be held fewer than 4 times a year, but it sort of seemed, I'd rather express it positively, that meetings shall be held at least 4 times a year.
Okay, we'll update that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Was there, did anyone else have any comment? Andrew, Phil?
I had a number of questions, and I'll apologise to Carleen before I ask this question, because discussing the Chief Executive's role in this committee with the Chief Executive in the room obviously requires some sensitivity. But I was interested in the recommendation that the Chief Executive be part of the decision-making body of the committee, the recommendation-making body of the committee, at the same time as I'm sure we would be seeking advice and assurance from the Chief Executive that the organisation is doing what we would want it to do from a health and safety viewpoint. So the responsibilities, item 2, seek assurance that the organisation is effectively structured to manage health and safety. I would imagine that advice would be coming from the Chief Executive, who in this model is also sitting on the committee as a decision-making member. And I know that can present difficulties with having one person essentially on both sides of the table, if you like, and I just wanted to get some commentary around that.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, we were sort of trying to get the, consider that, but that's good feedback, and we wouldn't necessarily, we've previously reported up to the Audit and Risk Committee on health and safety issues. So,
which the Chief Executive sits on.
Yes, so
actually,
we sort of use that as a model.
It may not be a universal point of view that the Chief Executive shouldn't be a member of it. Audit and Risk, the Chief Executive is a member, and it seemed to me that since the framework, came from, or the idea, the concept came from Audit and Risk, it seemed to me to make sense to have the Chief Executive there, because we would have someone from Human Resources reporting, presumably.
The Audit and Risk Committee doesn't confer voting rights on the Chief Executive for that committee.
So if you read under secretarial meetings, it talks about the committee may have in attendance such members of management, including the Chief Executive Officer. I sense that this has been a bit like a principal advisor role in terms of the, because of the importance of this committee to the organisation and to governance.
So maybe to put the question slightly differently then, the intention in this report is that the Chief Executive would be a member of the committee, as in a decision-making member of the committee, but also accepting that the Chief Executive would have a role in advising that committee as well. It's a question rather than a statement, because I'm just keen to understand the background to the formation of the committee. I'm certainly not taking a view at this stage on whether I think the Chief Executive should be a part of the decision-making body or not. It's a question just to tease out the thinking behind what appears to be the Chief Executive having potentially 2 roles in that forum.
One of the ways of thinking around this area of health and safety, and this is sort of guided by some of the principles in the legislation, is that really to ensure a safe and healthy culture, we need to ensure that there's this kind of collaboration, consult and cooperation. So that might be a way of, modelling the committee sort of around that. So that's another way of sort of thinking about it, because I think it needs to be, we want to work very much the sort of unique roles of the chief executive, and there are unique roles of elected members in terms of their responsibilities. So I think what's key is that it's a collaborative, consultative process to make sure that we're having an organisation that's, promoting a really safe and healthy culture.
And it's what allows this to work at the end of the day. What we want is the most effective structure so that the committee can do its job. Now, I just had one other question around, again, the terms of reference, the membership. We've got councillors and we've got external advisors. Is there any thought as to the numbers of councillors and the numbers of external advisors? Because later in the report reads as though there will be one external advisor, but that may not be the case according to the terms of reference. So again, just some commentary around perhaps the expected number of councillors or external advisors, or how we would arrive at those numbers.
I think that we would certainly want to have more than one external representative. I think that's where the strength is, to actually have some expertise from other organisations that have been involved in this. So certainly would see it more than one. I think you want to keep the committee relatively, sort of not too large as well, so that it can sort of be effective, because there's sort of quite a lot of operational aspects to it. So, we sort of take some guidance on that, but I think certainly more than one external, maybe 2 to 3.
Thank you. Yep. Phil?
Thank you for the report, Emma and Sharon. So I've also got some concerns around, I guess, the role that the CE, and it wouldn't matter who the CE is with respect, it's more of a governance issue, in that clearly at times, if the CE is part of that decision-making committee, as against being an advisor, at times, and given that that everyone will want the committee to work on a collaborative basis, as you say, but there'll be times when, in fact, there are governance and management issues arising, especially, for example, that if some issues were to happen, in fact, it will be the CE who will be accountable to the committee. So just wonder if you could comment on that.
I mean, I think that's a really a good point, and it's really thinking about where, and we're still working with the new legislation, sort of working through how that fits, and we have looked at some other councils' experiences. Some of them will put things through the Audit and Risk Committee, others have established an independent health and safety committee. So I think it's a good point. So that's something for us to really consider, whether it's as an advisor or a voting member.
Thanks, Emma. And I've just got sort of one further...
Look, I made a mistake. I've been Googling the Audit and Risk Management Committee. So Carlene's just an attendant. She's not a member of the committee.
On that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll take the CEO out of there, but leave in the expression that including the Chief Executive Officer.
My other point too, though, is that I think it's really good to have this discussion. I think it's urgent that we get this done. I'm still wondering, though, in fact, to get this right, if in fact this is something that we could should ask the new council.
No, this is going to the new council.
It is?
Yeah, so we're providing feedback and advice. We're not going to sign off on the actual terms of reference. This is going to the new council, but I guess that I mean, we could have done this at a workshop, and but we've been invited to give feedback, so I think feedback we should give, and that's been very helpful.
Yeah.
Tim?
Look, health and safety committees aren't new. I mean, they're right throughout many organisations, you'd hope anyway. So the normal practice is that the reporting officer, irrelevant of their standing in the organisation, is not a member of the committee, because they're answering.
We've crossed out CEO.
Okay, so it's,
Yeah.
right.
So we'll take, we'll amend it that this CEO is not a member of the committee for the new draft.
Yeah, you just
we'll
need to
that
take
feedback.
CEO out of membership, but
Yep.
leave in item 2.
Chief advisor.
Do people want to, do people have a view whether the chair is appointed by the mayor or, well, that they are appointed by the mayor?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
unless overturned by the majority of the council.
Yep.
Is this a proposal to have a different mechanism for selecting
No,
a
we were
chair?
taking guidance on what's the normal mechanism, so that was advice that we got.
I just think that it doesn't require a reference, and then
Okay.
it's just the standard
The
rules.
standard process,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
So this was in response to the resolution to provide
Yeah.
the feedback. Do you want to recommend to the new council that they establish it, or do you
Yeah.
think that the council have already done that?
Oh, what was the exact wording?
Right, so it comes from the Board of Risk, because the council considered
Yeah.
the establishment, and chief executive provided draft terms.
Yeah. Okay. So the draft terms of reference. If you look at the key points on page 245, it says that the ARMC requested that council consider the establishment of a health and safety committee of council. The chief executive was to provide draft terms of reference in the appointment process for independent members with a view of establishing the committee in September 2016. Well, that's not going to happen. So we weren't able to get to the position where we would be establishing the committee prior to the election. So what we need to do is provide advice and just refer this to the incoming council with the recommendation that they establish a health and safety committee with some urgency.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So are there any other issues that people would like to provide feedback on? All right, so moved by Paul, seconded by Pauline. So we've got receive, review and provide, no, we don't need that, that the council note the draft terms of reference document and appointment process. And recommend to the new council that they establish a health and safety committee of council in line with the proposals. Yeah.
May I speak to it briefly?
So that be given priority in terms of urgency too? Should we?
As a matter of priority.
Yep.
Jamie.
Yeah, do you mind if I speak to that briefly?
No, sure.
Great. Well, I think health and safety committees are incredibly important, and one of my pet hates is when you have an organisation when quizzed around their level of priority for health and safety or whether they have a health and safety committee. The biggest cop-out answer you can get is when they say, oh no, the whole board is the health and safety committee, because you know, when people say there's no right or wrong answers, or sorry, that's the wrong answer. Same as audit and risk, you can't say, well, the whole board is the audit and risk committee. You need to have that focus on it. So I've been a member of a health and safety committee for a company that's probably in a high-risk industry, you know, heavy engineering and heavy equipment and that sort of stuff. And I think the most important aspect of the health and safety committee is it's not around the lag indicators and all that sort of stuff and the monitoring, you know, that's part of it, but it's around embedding a culture, and that's always the challenge. So when there was talk of whether or not the chief executive is a member of it, I'm one of the biggest sticklers you'll find for the importance of good governance and governance versus management and where that fits so it's most effective. But I see this committee sitting very much in line and mirroring audit and risk, and I think having Carleen around that table in the capacity that she has been absolutely invaluable, because to truly understand what the risks of that organisation is, or what the risks are, and also what the opportunities are, having that chief executive around that table and a part of that body has been very, very beneficial, whether that's in the form of a non-voting member, whatever. But I think the Health and Safety Committee should mirror the Audit and Risk Committee, and that's how I really envisage it. So if it's as a non-voting member, look, that's fine, but I think it should probably follow similar terms of reference to Audit and Risk, because I think they're very, very similar. Anyway, with that being said, I think this is a step in the right direction. We've obviously got new legislation, and I know this is not a corporate organisation or a corporate entity with the same responsibilities for elected members, but that doesn't mean that we should take those responsibilities lightly, because this needs to be of top priority, and ensuring that we embed a culture of success and excellence with respect to health and safety is incredibly important. So this is a good step forward, and I'm happy to move it if it hasn't been moved.
You can't, because it's been moved and seconded.
Oh, well then I'll be happy to vote for it.
Excellent. Paul, did you want to?
So, could I just clarify something? You clarified that the CEO was an advisor to the Audit and Risk Committee.
I've taken her out of the list of members.
But just to clarify, because it sounded like that she was a member of the Audit and Risk, and I just wanted to clarify that.
No, she's in attendance.
Yeah, so principal advisor.
Yeah, I did come back and apologise because I made a mistake.
It sounded like that wasn't.
Oh.
So that's misunderstanding.
Yeah.
What then, if I may, Madam Mayor, what is Carlene's? I know, that's why I quickly backtracked. What's Carlene's role under the terms of reference in Audit and Risk? Because nothing. She just attends.
She's a hugely valuable member of the committee, but doesn't actually have voting rights.
And are we going to mirror that with the Health and Safety Committee?
Yes, but she's not. But she's not listed as a member of the committee. She is in attendance.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's covered by point 2.
Yeah, great.
Seconders. It was Paul.
We got Paul and who seconded it? Pauline. Thank you. Yeah, I knew I had a mover and a seconder. Yeah. All right. So shall I put that motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. And now we can go back to item 12, intersection improvement, Cashmere, Hoonpee, Worsley's. And I understand we have our team here. I presume that there are some questions in relation to this matter. Yes, Glenn.
Okay, well, thank you for this report. I've just got a couple of questions, and we have had a workshop, which is good. My first is, why is this going to cost 2.820 million, these intersection improvements?
It's a reasonably complex intersection. There's land purchase involved in it as well. The original 900 odd thousand that was in the LTP was really was additional funding that would have been on top of the developer funding. So the developer, as a requirement of their consent, was required to upgrade this intersection when his subdivision got to 260 something lots. The 900k, and they would only have to upgrade the intersection to cater for the traffic being developed from the development. We always foresaw that there would need to be additional facilities in the intersection to cater for cyclists, etc. So the 900k that's in the LTP was basically just council's proportion that was foreseen to maybe be needed when the developer was required to upgrade this thing whenever the development got to 260 odd sections. So it is for a major intersection improvement like this that involves a lot of realignment, a lot of curbing work, land purchase, etc. This is the estimated cost based on the detailed design that's now been undertaken.
Thank you. And my other question is over the Northern Arterial intersection, if you wouldn't mind explaining that, because I think that's quite useful and would be for the whole council over the fact that with the Northern Arterial coming on, it could well have been that some of these improvements may not have proceeded to the same.
That's correct. At the time that the LTP was put together, the Northern Arterial wasn't certain, and so traffic loadings on Marshlands Road were expected to carry on increasing, and it would have required improvements in that section between QE2 Drive and Shirley. Now that the Northern Arterial is certain and about to start construction, the completion of the Northern Arterial will take significant traffic loading off of Marshlands Road. So that calls into question the need to upgrade Marshlands Road at the current time, as was planned in the LTP, to upgrade it between 2017 and 2019.
Yeah.
So Northern Arterial will take a lot of traffic off of Marshlands Road. So we perceive that we need to now do further modelling and come back to the 2018 LTP based on the traffic loading that, or the traffic patterns that will eventuate once the Northern Arterial is finished, and review the need for those improvements in the next LTP.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Dave.
Ali?
The downstream mitigations that we've heard a lot about, particularly around the Innes Road area with regards to that stretch from Innes down to Barwick or Berwick. This isn't that area that we're talking about with regards to moving the money from, is it?
No, that
right.
project's still in the LTP to do those downstream effect studies and the mitigation measures that come out of that study.
Thank you. The second part of my question is, if it becomes apparent that we do require the money for this downstreaming that we're moving or want to move today, do you believe that money will be available, or will it just be in the pot for negotiation and allocation as per a normal process?
So as part of the 2018 LTP, once we've been able to reassess the network impacts of the Northern Arterial being completed, then if it's needed, it will be put forward as a project for consideration under the 2018 LTP.
Under consideration, just like all the other projects that will... Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Raf and then Yanni.
In terms of shifting some of these other projects, why do we actually need to do that?
Originally, the funds for the Worsleys intersection were out in 2021 to 2023. That was to align with the perceived rate of development. Yeah. Obviously now with the Adventure Park being certain, it's underway, and that's, I guess, evidenced by the submission from the Spraden Heathcote Community Board as part of the annual plan. There will undoubtedly be increased cycling movements.
I don't mean that. I guess the point I'm making is these are quite tiny projects in terms of the overall capital programme, which we know we're only going to deliver 70, 80, whatever %, so there's not going to be a funding issue in terms of the funds to do it. So why are we, if we know that we can actually complete these projects, they're not big projects which might be delayed or run over time, so why don't we just keep doing them?
These have been, so the resolution from Council was to identify candidate projects that could be used to fund advancing this intersection into the current financial year, and they are our suggestion of 2 projects that could be utilised to do that. The rest of the projects that are still in the LTP are underway for this current financial year, and there isn't funding or projects within the current financial year that were viewed as candidates that could be used to fund the $2 million that is needed to complete this project this year.
Well, I don't think there is such a thing as there isn't funding. I don't see why we wouldn't just continue with those projects.
Just answered the downstream from QE2 is not really required, because it would have eventuated at the same time as the Northern Arterial opening, which is supposed to take the traffic off Marshland anyway. And then you haven't talked about the Fitzgerald Ave one, but that's a similar...
Because there are some changing patterns with traffic, etc. So to have a look at the whole thing rather than just one intersection would be the better way to go. But that's
so there's some sense in actually delaying those 2 projects. Well, not delaying them, but actually reviewing those projects in light of the other issues.
We'll look at them in the holistic view of the whole of the network and the changes that are happening on the network at this current point in time. Well,
just
they haven't happened yet, but
it's not a financial issue.
No.
That's why these 2 were identified.
Yeah. Yanni.
Okay, so the total's 2.8 million. You say in the report it's unlikely we'll get NZTA subsidy, so the other projects would qualify for NZTA subsidies, I presume. I don't know about Cashel Fitzgerald, if that's an accessible city project that's not funded by NZTA, or whether that's one that would be. But can you just explain that in terms of the 2.8, how much of that is subsidy from the other projects versus unsubsidised funding?
So the element of subsidy in the other projects would obviously need to go through the normal business case process that we're required to do to secure that funding. When we put together the LTP, the funding that we receive from NZTA is taken at a global level. We haven't done the formal subsidy application for those two other projects at this stage. It's envisaged that they would attract funding from NZTA at that time because they qualify for it in terms of safety and congestion benefits. We don't account within the LTP for NZTA funding on a project-by-project basis. It's taken at a global level.
But what's the percentage of funding that we expect to get from NZTA?
For a project that qualifies for funding, it's normally around 50%. That's our standard funding rate for capital projects. So a project that does qualify for the component parts of that project that are part of the carriageway, if you like, between the curbs, that gets 50% funded. Stuff that's outside of that, so footpaths, etc., aren't. So it's not an absolute. It will depend on the element of the project that is actually falls within NZTA's funding eligibility.
So basically, there's another $1 million of subsidy at a global level that we've accounted for that we now need to take off.
Yeah.
So it's 3.8 million for this project.
No, this is the total cost. We're going to put in an application to see whether it will get across the line. All we're flagging is that it may not get across the line.
Yeah,
so it would mean that 2.8 would come down to maybe 2 with 800,000. I'm not sure exactly how much would be eligible. So what we are going to make is an application to NZTA. We're just signalling to you that we may not get that.
No. So, but what I'm trying to understand, if we go ahead today and we don't get the NZTA funding, it's the cost, it would seem, would be higher than 2.8. It would actually be 3.8 because there's $1 million global subsidy for those two other projects that we should discount.
No, those other projects, if they went ahead after we've done the re-looking at the network, would still be eligible for those when we've moved them. So we've just shifted that there. All we're saying is this may be 100% funded by council or it may get a NZTA subsidy. We cannot guarantee that until we make an application. So the total cost is 2.8. Those other projects will get subsidy if they go ahead in their current form and they get the BC.
If you look at the resolutions under 4, it says removed from the LTP program. So I presume that Audit New Zealand would have a real issue with us removing something from an LTP program and budgeting for an NZTA subsidy. Surely if we take a project out of our program, we also should reduce the expected subsidy.
It's long-term plan though.
Right?
It's long-term plan.
Yeah, so if we take it out of the long-term plan, which these resolutions do, then surely that subsidy should reduce. Like how would Audit ever say that you can claim a subsidy for projects that you've removed?
No, we won't be claiming a subsidy, I'm sorry. The subsidy would go into, as Chris said, at a global level, not at a project-by-project level.
So at a global level, if we remove these projects from our long-term plan, that subsidy should reduce, right? Because if it's unlikely we'd get the subsidy for the new project.
If we have a project, the 2.8 go in there. At the moment we've got 2.8, we're doing it so that basically we are hoping that we'll make an application for subsidy. And so we're hoping that we'll get it. We may or we may not, and that's what really we're signalling. However, so the worst case scenario is that we'll have to find 2.8 million for this project. Best case no, not at this point in time.
So,
can you not? Eh?
It's just ridiculous.
Oh, sorry. No, moved by Tim, seconded by Phil.
So the other question I have was just in regards to the removal of these projects. So the question before was, we've got a lot of carry forward. So by removing these projects, which the community haven't had any consultation on, like Cashel Fitzgerald, why would you not just put them out further rather than remove them from the program?
I think Chris has said that he's going to bring them back into the 2018 once we've got a holistic picture of the network for both those projects. So in actual fact, we
question
probably
that
are, but
Yanni's
then
asking
you will
is, can they be moved into the 2018-19 year rather than be removed from the program? That's what he's asking.
I'd have to talk to finance, but I don't imagine we could shift. It wouldn't be a problem of shifting some projects forward and some projects back. Help me here.
The whole aspect on this is there's no free lunch. If we want to bring funds into this year without taking funds out, that it will impose an impost. The extent to which we might also be putting at risk contributions from developers and losing NZTA contribution also reinforces that risk. So there's no free lunch.
But I think the point that we were making,
the way in which it's been put forward gives you the best consequence for the decision.
I think that the point that we were making was that that would assume that every single item on the capital program was delivered this year, which I'm hopeful that it is, but it hasn't been before. So, which I think was Raf's point.
The next time we do the capital program will be as part of the annual plan. We actually update it, don't we, in the project. So in actual fact, can bring that back up to you. We don't do the capital program interim, so we can actually look at putting it into that.
So I think the resolution under 4 is what's giving me a bit of trouble, because it says to remove the project from the long-term plan. I was happy to do a swap, the substitution, and actually put it back into the year 2023 or 2022.
I think we just literally swap them.
And that way, we actually enable the subsidy to be calculated in whatever audit happens, because we would expect to.
Can we change the wording of it so that we're swapping them? So basically, that we reschedule them for the 2021-22 and 22-23 years. As provided for the Cashmere-Hoonhay Worsley intersection improvements, but require that they be reconsidered in the 2018 year.
That is effectively what we're proposing, but yes.
Yeah, but what Yanni's saying is that he doesn't want to vote for a resolution that says be removed from the LTP, and I think we meet Peter's concern by putting it as a direct swap for an item that's already on the budget.
So it's to be rescheduled?
Yeah.
Moving the lunch
so to be rescheduled, or use the same word, rephased into the 2021, 22 and 22, 23 years. So use the wording from 5. No.
20, 21, 22.
Yeah, just copy those. And then and leave the words rephased into the 2021 years for reconsider. No, leave it at that, for reconsideration. The 2018 review and available funds. Yep. All right. Yep. Good outcome. All right. So we've got a mover and a seconder. David.
Is that just applied to item 4? Yeah. So we're not rephasing item 3.
Well, are we going to reconsider that? Because
no, because the point of item 3 really was, the understanding that I have is that by the time we plan and get into detailed design for item 3 there, the Northern Arterial's likely to be on stream, and the necessity for that work may be substantially reduced. And in fact, I would have probably gone kicking and screaming about taking budget off our side of town, but I'm convinced that the way we're doing this is makes sense, because the impact on traffic will reduce quite substantially once the Northern Arterial's in phase. I would, however, just add the one little comment that here we are 1.03 million is being generously donated from the eastern suburbs to the other side of town, and I trust that will be taken into consideration if there's debate on legacy projects and things. Yeah, so we are a generous area, and we're quite happily, in the circumstances that have been outlined to us today, to forego this project in the better interests of the city. So.
Well, we're called to be city councillors, so.
Okay, Phil.
Well, look, I don't think this is like a partisan type decision at all. Clearly, the whole city is going to benefit from the adventure park, and it has required some purchase of land and additional funding, and there's no losses at all in terms of the RONS project and also the safety aspects of Cashel and Fitzgerald at all. So it's a win-win really in terms of making sure that not only is this project is delivered so that in fact there's good access, good vehicle access and good cycleway access, but that also it comes back to what I guess a safety concern that local residents and Spade and Heathcote have asked for a long time. The intersections never work particularly well, and this is a good opportunity to get it right. So altogether, the whole adventure park is going to be a huge asset to the city. Everybody is going to benefit by what we decide today.
Very good. Tim?
Thank you. Look, adventure park aside, the traffic has changed since the earthquake. Development in the south and southwest is huge. We get a lot more traffic through this area than we have as many other areas do. So this one intersection, actually, the pulsing will improve not only Heckthorne Road, Bengal Drive, Craycroft, but the other areas that are immediately affected as well, like Westmoreland. So I want to thank staff for the work you've done on it, and thank you. It's good.
Very good, Yanni.
Thank you. I'm supportive of upgrading this intersection. I actually think it's good to be proactive and actually address issues before they arise, and it's a shame that we might not qualify for NZTA funding for doing that, but given what's been done in that local area, I think this is a really sensible way forward. The other reason that I actually like the idea that you've identified Cashel Fitzgerald, haven't taken it off, but have actually put it out to 2021, 2022, is actually, if you think about it, that actually aligns with when hopefully some planning or some thinking around the new stadium, which will have a massive impact on traffic in that area. So spending money on that project now, ahead of knowing the future outcome of the stadium and the design and location and all the other things that are associated with it, actually makes a lot of sense. So, I think this is a really sensible solution. I don't know when we're going to start thinking about the stadium. Hopefully that's not too far away. And hopefully there's a very detailed traffic assessment. I would just say that for that area, there are significant safety concerns with the closure of a number of streets going into the avenues, and the Northern Arterial Extension, which will divert a huge amount of extra traffic around the 4 Avs. That's the whole plan for the Accessible City plan, and it would be really good to understand just how those safety concerns are going to be addressed in line with the major developments in that area. So this gives us time to do that, which is why it's a sensible decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That's carried. Just before we move on to the next item, how many councillors are going to the Battle of the Somme commemoration? You'd like to, and Vicky would like to as well. Now, is it 11 o'clock? So we don't have to leave here for another 20 minutes? Yeah, okay. So it's just over there. So let's power on to the rates remission consideration for South Awatea. This was a request from a report from Strategy and Finance. We asked that this come to council with a report on the South Awatea. Slightly different decision from the one that we made. Different issue from the one we made last week, but an equally challenging decision. Raf, do you want to move the staff recommendation, or do you have a different view? No. What would you like to move?
I want to move to option 2.
Option 2.
Can
we go
ask some
to option
questions
2
of
and see if we can turn that into a resolution?
Is it possible just to ask a question of staff in the meantime?
Yes, you can ask us a question of staff in the meantime.
Yeah, thank you. I just wondered whether there's a way in which we can actually see where there's been massive changes of value. Like, so is there a kind of systemic approach we could actually take to looking at where this has happened rather than just rely on individuals to make deputations?
Upwards and downwards, or just downwards?
It's probably upwards. It seems that that's the one that's been the concern expressed by people, that their land's been, rezoned for development, and they've got these huge increases when development is unlikely to happen because of whatever reason.
And presumably that would also have to take into account whether they had sold close to the time or not, whether valuation is a point of fact.
So we can do
So
that?
you'd have to cross-reference it to land ownership and sale as well.
I'm just trying to understand whether we're just going to get a whole bunch of ad hoc requests to give people rates of remission because their land's been rezoned, it's now worth a lot more, and the rates have gone up hugely, or whether there's a more strategic way in which we can address this.
That's not the basis for the request. So I think it would be wrong to make that assumption. There are other ways of dealing with property values. This is a property revaluation that's based on something that was due to happen that hasn't happened. So and that's very similar to the last decision we made. It's not exactly the same. Paul?
Just actually picking up on Peter's point, I would be interested to know if anyone in this area has picked up the value since the rating value has gone up, on-sold it, and now they're in there wanting a rates remission.
No, I don't think there's been any sales in the South Aotea area. And just, sorry, to answer the original question, yes, every time we do a revaluation, we do a little heat map and charts of different areas to show how values have changed up and down and what the impacts of that are on rates. But the Mayor's quite right. Obviously, the situation here is that the values in 2013 are considered to fairly reflect what the actual value was at the time. And what has happened subsequent to that is that the signalled rezoning to enable that development and the realisation of that sort of value has just not happened. And there's a question mark over whether it will happen or not, depending on what happens to the cart club. So this is the sort of thing that is fairly routine, I guess, around the town, and the district planning changes are signalled and changes do happen. I think what's happened in these two cases we've had recently is that because the district plan change has happened far more quickly than is normally the case, these issues, and it just happened to straddle a 2013 revaluation as well, these issues have been highlighted in a couple of areas where the changes have been quite significant.
So, I mean, the other question I have was related to where we've seen a huge rezoning of density, whether that's now going to put the property values up.
Can we just please deal with this report? I'm seriously, we just talked about all wanting to go to this commemoration. Vicky?
Option 2 creates quite a high threshold in terms of the 50% increase.
Yep.
Are you reasonably comfortable with that as threshold?
It's a little arbitrary, I've got to say, and it doesn't matter what threshold we choose, there's going to be boundary issues. I mean, the table on page 243...
Yes, shows one at 48%.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, we could choose 45%, but there'll be someone at 44. Any decision like this is bound to have boundary issues, so it becomes a matter of relatively arbitrary judgment to decide how big a rates increase is big enough that it warrants.
But in terms of the potential flow-on effect, which was one of the concerns of the earlier decision, and obviously one here, if it's a 50% one, the potential for flow-on is reasonably limited?
Yeah, I did estimates here earlier on. I think there were about 1,000 properties that experienced a 50% rates increase after the reval last time round. Obviously only a relatively small number of those will be in a similar position to this. The vast bulk of those 1,000 will have very likely retained that increase in value.
And people can always object to the evaluation at the time of the valuation?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, that's the same point. There's no question that these were wrong at the time. the
Yeah.
issue at hand is...
The trouble was
when
is that
the
they
change
thought that the
Yeah.
value was going
Yes.
to increase because
Yes.
the cart club was going to go earlier as well.
It's a
Yeah.
happenstance.
Yeah.
I'm happy to move.
You already have, I thought. No. Well, no, Raf's already moved it, and you can second it.
Then we can
So,
cite it the...
so this is the word, provide a 25% rates from remission. Now, Ali, you had your hand up?
I was just going to ask that 1,000 properties then. That's essentially what the precedent created could be, is that right? Or is there a greater potential numbers-wise, citywide precedent-wise?
That's a good question. That's just a bald number of the number of properties where rates increased by 50% at the last reval.
Citywide?
So, citywide.
Really close.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Okay, I will, it's been moved and seconded. Did you have a question?
No, not question. Just very quick. Just
Following Vicky's question, I mean, looking at that there is that 48% one, which is an outlier, and there's below that I think it's 22%. So could we include that property? Yeah, because that's just an outlier.
There's a 48, a 44 and a 40.
Is there? Well, I can only see if in the table I'm looking at, it's only got the 48% one.
The last two, 410 and 440 Wigram Road, are at 44 and 40.
Okay.
So you're looking
I'm looking at the land value
Junction
change.
Road.
Okay.
So if we go to 50%,
Which number?
Yeah.
He's looking at the wrong column.
3 of these.
Sorry, what was that?
If we go to 50%, there's 3 of these.
Yes. 4. Oh, sorry, 4, quite right.
4 over 50?
Yeah.
So are we talking about the land value
So
change?
it's
or the
providing a
rates
rate,
value change?
25% rates remission for properties which experience a 50%
Yeah, I was looking at the
increase.
land value change rather than the rates change.
Are you s-
Both land values and rates. So where's the fourth one? Are you
First one is Horsewell Junction Road 340, number 340.
Oh, in both land
And also
values.
300 over Junction Road, 314 in.
Sorry, I'll just ask Steve to clarify it, shall I?
They're
Yeah, okay,
highlighted, the highlighting doesn't make sense.
No, I'll just get Steve to clarify which ones he's talking about.
Yeah, sorry, the highlights on the left-hand side, the properties, that was, I should have deleted that before I published it. I'm sorry, that's just to indicate to me where there's common ownership. What really matters is the rates figure. The land values are useful background because they tell you how things moved generally, but rates are obviously calculated on total capital value, not just land value. So improvements make a difference.
Plus rates must have gone up 50%, there's 4 in that list.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
that column on the right.
Okay, yep. All right, so, okay, I'll put that motion. Yeah, and then Jimmy.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think this is important. I don't think it sets a precedent, other than we've really got to be careful around rezonings where there isn't price discovery. So where we've revalued on the basis of a potential rezoning. I think, so when it comes to new valuations, I think we need to think about this, that we need some kind of market price information to actually show that the value of those properties have gone up. And I think it's better to wait to see that rather than predict, just because there's been a rezoning, that the price has now doubled. So I think that's the important thing here, and so it's not going to affect a lot of properties. It's going to be quite specific around these types of rezonings.
Yeah. Just for clarification, though, when we do, as you know, when we do these revaluations, we must have a market value as at 1 August.
We're having a debate now,
Yeah,
not a question.
I'm talking about actually price discovery in the market as opposed to evaluation. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this is quite appropriate.
Yanni, what, do you want to debate?
Yeah, we're in debate.
Okay, Jimmy?
Yes, thank you, yeah. Because my personal view, staff teaching new report.
It's comprehensive report. It's very good, especially option 2. Why I would like to, support option 2. Particularly, you specify in here option 2 advantage, acknowledge significant change of circumstances since the 2013 due to the factors outside affected ratepayer control. That's a factor, which means council rezone our tier to the living G with a constraint on south of tier to develop cannot go ahead until car club has ceased operating. But you also, based on the page 242, the 5.4 bullet point 3, you also recognize this resource concern is kind of high risk resource concern. Maybe will not to be obtained because while they have a strong opposition, then eventually maybe council will consider formal change to rezone back to the rural. So that's high risk. So this has to be the mitigate this situation. So that's why I don't want to support option 1. I prefer the option 2. And also 22 properties, only the 4 is over the land value and the property over 50%. That's reasonable. We specify those one, not everything, just part of it. Yeah. So that's would like to support option 2.
Yanni?
Happy to support the resolution that's been moved, although I do think this raises a huge question with how we're actually doing evaluations and revaluing something. I mean, rezoning land that can't be developed is silly. We should actually be not rezoning land until it can be developed, in my view, because if you take this area in particular, we've now got advice that there's a high risk the resource consent won't be obtained at all from the Cut Club, and we've spent I don't know how many hours and how many millions trying to sort this issue out. So I think it's unfortunate, and I have to say I worry about other areas of the city that have now got higher density zoning and what's going to happen in terms of their land value and their rates value, and what compensation will they be able to apply for if we have a similar situation because we don't have infrastructure in place or whatever it is. So, but I think it's good option 1 in that it does set a pretty high bar by requiring both the land value and the rates to be at a certain threshold. So I will support it, but it would be good to get something back at some stage around how the valuation and the land use planning connects to each other in regards to this issue, so that we don't get a whole bunch of people coming back after the fact, but rather at the time when the valuations come out, there is a process by which they can understand and possibly challenge if they can't develop as they thought they could.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That's carried. Glenn Livingston opposed. Right, the last one, item 15, Littleton Design Review Panel, correction of an administration error. Would you like to move that, Andrew?
This is purely procedural. I'm happy to move it.
Seconded by Tim. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That's carried. And just before I move into PX,
Wait, there's more. That's it.
I'd like to acknowledge Ellie Jones's last meeting.
Oh, okay.
You put the others.
She'll be back. Oh, yeah, let's take a photo.
Feel free. I shall be spending. If you come back as the chair of the community board, I'll be able to give you a free hit. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. I really don't want to say much. We all reset at certain times, and I'm resetting now and spending some more time with my family and the new dog Billy, rescue greyhound, fantastic dogs if you're interested. And I won't be watching you on the live streaming, but thank you very much. I've really enjoyed my time here. It would be not entirely correct if I say I enjoyed it. It's been challenging. Parts of it I have enjoyed. And I think the best part is the people, as they say, and I'm not going to repeat the much used statement, but I don't think people realise how much elected members give up, and whenever you say this is what I give up, people dismiss it, and you should be allowed to actually say, hang on a minute, I'm unwell, a la Hillary Clinton, or I have time to spend with my family, or I need to spend more time with my family, and people need to respect and acknowledge that a bit more. So I want to strengthen the community boards. That's one of the things that I aim to do, and thank you very much for these, and I look forward to seeing you in the next term. Thank you.
So on that note, I'll move that we exclude the public for all the reasons set out on the agenda. Do we need to include anyone in the meeting? No, we don't. Yes?
Oh, wow.
Munro. And Paul will include Paul Munro from CCHL. Is that all? Yes. Seconded by Yanni.
No, I'm happy to second all of it except the fast food outlet, and I just want my vote recorded against that one going into PX.
Yep, sure. So who would like to second the motion? Tim. I actually wasn't sure why that was in PX myself. Eh? Oh, the legal opinion. Okay, it contains a legal opinion, right? So, so who seconded it? Phil. Tim, was it? Okay, Tim. Sorry, I apologise. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.